My name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about how a secure person would respond if their partner just kind of went offline for the weekend, okay? And by partner, I mean somebody you're dating. It could be the dating stage of a relationship, or it could be your actual committed partner. You're in the honeymoon stage of a relationship, you've made a commitment of some form. But I want to talk about specifically how a secure person would respond, because I get questions like this all the time. When we have a fearful avoidant or a dismissive avoidant person who sort of pulls away and kind of drops off the face of the earth for a little bit, and you might be AP or you might be another FA going through that with a different FA or DA. And so I want to talk about just like what a healthy response to this would be. So the very first part of this is you going inward to decide very specifically and particularly based on your situation, what feels right for you. In other words, what are your needs in this situation? And that first response of going inward and reflecting on what your needs are is the most important response that you'll have. It's like the most important step, because if you try to communicate, but you haven't really assessed what's okay for you or not, even if you communicate nicely or in a way that's well received or that's emotionally regulated, if you're not giving the appropriate information to your loved one for what is appropriate for you and not, what is okay with you and not, then it's just going to be another pain point that comes up later down the road. So the very first step is that self-reflection piece. What are my standards and needs when it comes to communication? And, do I expect to communicate once a day, every day? Do I expect to communicate at least 5 or 6 days of the week? But if somebody's gone for a few days in a row, I really don't like that. Like, what is it for you based on where you're currently at? Now, I think it's a very healthy standard to have a daily touch point of communication. If you're in a committed long-term relationship, I think that's really important. If you are 2 weeks into dating, then it might be a different conversation. The expectations could be a little bit too high, too fast. If you're hoping that somebody is, going to communicate every day, even though you've only been on 1 or 2 dates so far. But really take the time to consider yourself and what your needs are one way or the other. I just wanted to give you some sort of foundational expectations to have, and decide what's okay for you or not. Okay. A lot of people will be like, yeah, if somebody's gone for a day, that's fine. But if they're gone for, days at a time, or they don't tell me ahead of time, so it really depends on the person and situation. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to then feel worthy of having those needs. And if you don't, it could be that there's a core wound that you may have around, I am unworthy, or I'm not good enough, or I'm unlovable, or, I'll be abandoned if I communicate a need, or I don't want to be a burden, or things like this. And as long as those things are part of your subconscious programming, they're going to influence the way you communicate, the way you receive, the way you connect, what you feel worthy of receiving in relationships. And it's really important that you do a little bit of reconditioning on those core concepts, because healing is reconditioning, right? So we can spend a lot of time doing things where we just talk about stuff, but if you're not reconditioning, so let me just give you an example. Let's say you go into counseling, and let's say you speak about how you didn't feel good enough as a child because of the way your parents treated you. It can be helpful in some forms to communicate about that. But there can be downsides too, where you're just kind of reiterating a story about yourself and then just talking about how painful that was. In order to actually heal, we also need to be able to talk about how, I'm going to change that narrative about myself going forward. And I'm going to use subconscious reprogramming tools to actually change this story, to see how I am worthy of feeling good enough, how I am a good enough person. I do have great qualities and characteristics. It doesn't have to be in balance. It doesn't have to be like suddenly you condition yourself to believe that you're the best person in the world, but that you don't come from that place of lack or absence in being able to see how you are a good enough person and how you're worthy of the things that you want from life. And so we need the reconditioning to actually see the needle move in terms of transformation, which is obviously part of what this whole channel teaches and all of our courses teach, is how to do that reconditioning work. But I just want to say at step 2 here, it's really important to do reconditioning work if you find that you're stuck on a belief about yourself that's then making you feel afraid of communicating, right? If you believe I'm weak if I communicate, or, I'll be hurt if I communicate, or if I'm vulnerable. or I'll be abandoned, or I'll be a burden, or all these sorts of beliefs we may have. And by the way, if you want to check out like actual reconditioning work, we have programs for healing every single attachment style. And our whole course is just focuses on like how to recondition and what the foundational components of reconditioning are. We actually have 2 courses you can pick from, both give them to you. We have our emotional mastery and belief reprogramming course, which has more of a slant towards how to also regulate your emotions on a regular basis and how to recondition your relationship to your own emotions. Or we have our 21 tools to reprogram the subconscious mind, which just gives you a variety of different tools and breakdowns for how to recondition things that are not working for you, whether it's behavioral patterns or core beliefs or fears that you can really apply to any area of your life, your career, your relationships, your relationship to money, your health, all these different areas. So anyways, with that being said, you can check those out for free for 7 days by clicking the link below as well. But with that being said, this is an important part of like the responding, right? If I don't feel worthy of sharing that something makes me feel uncomfortable, then I may not end up doing it. I might get cold feet and avoid, but then that's just going to turn into resentment later on. Okay. So feeling worthy. Number 3 is to communicate and to let somebody know, look, I understand you're a person. I want to respect your own feelings, your own needs and situations, but part of a committed relationship to me also means that there's some form of daily touch point. Sure, we could have exceptions to the rule if you're going away, but please let me know in advance. But I have these standards that I would like for our relationship, and I need you to meet me halfway. So you're getting really clear, really specific. You can say, like, I respect you, and we can negotiate about this. Like, you can let me know where you're coming from, but this is a healthy standard that I have, and this is what's important to me. And then the last part here is that if a secure person has these really important standards, so let's say communication and consistency are like 2 of your highest needs in a relationship. What a secure person would do as well is if the person on the other end says yes and then doesn't do it, or says, no, I'm not going to do that. And there's this consistent pattern of not showing up, not doing those things. A secure person also feels confident enough to respect their own standards. And so if something's not working and the person's not following through and not showing up in a way that feels healthy, then a secure person also will feel comfortable enough to walk away from something that's not working. And so you would see in the situation, and here's the big kicker to this, is that if you don't have all these core wounds that make you feel like I'm not good enough, I'm not going to find somebody again, I'm going to be alone forever, I'll be abandoned, people won't stay interested in me in long term. Like, if you don't have all these core wounds to diminish your self-esteem, then you'll look at something, you'll evaluate it, you'll go, this is working for me, or you'll go, this isn't working for me. And if it's not, it won't feel so scary to walk away from what's not actually working. It will feel right. It will feel correct. It will feel self-respecting, self-supportive. And you can do it in a way that's very kind and conscientious and sweet to another person. But if there's just a mismatch, what incompatibility really breaks down to is having differences, but then those differences being things that drive the relationship apart instead of differences that bring compromises and communication that grow the relationship together. It's like you're either growing together or growing apart over your differences. And compromise and communication are the necessities that allow us to grow together. And if one person is not meeting you partway, then a secure person also feels comfortable enough to go, okay, I'm not getting to grow together with this person, so it's probably not a compatibility match at this time. So those are sort of 4 major components in terms of how a secure person would respond. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see any other, how a secure person would respond to X, Y, Z, like whatever situation you may be faced with. I know we can sort of have a lack of modeling about relationships growing up. And I know that sometimes our modeling comes mostly from like television shows and romantic movies and things like that, which is not necessarily, it may make for good television, but it may not be the most realistic interpretation of communication and healthy modeling. So please feel free to share anything you want to see down below. And thank you so much for being here. Again, you can check out those free resources for 7 days by using the link in the description box below. And please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already and you hang out here a lot. I would super appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.